This man is the strongest superhero on Earth in Marvel history, the Sentry. His defense is very high, and ordinary attacks can't even get close to him. His attack power is even terrifyingly strong. He can easily bend the shield of U.S. agent. Several superheroes can't do anything about him at all, but what's terrifying is that the Sentry also has a more powerful Void persona. With a casual wave of his hand, he was about to swallow the entire London into the void. Facing such a powerful enemy, can the Thunder Squad turn the tide? On the rooftop of a building somewhere in Malaysia, Yelena, the second-generation Black Widow, was going to work for Valentina again. She jumped off the rooftop. By the time the guard noticed the parachute, Yelena was already standing behind him. Having dealt with the guard outside the door, Yelena rushed straight into the room and started fighting. When Yelena had finished dealing with the guards, she found that she couldn't turn on the computer, let alone delete the data.
It didn't say how to destroy the evidence in the assignment. It's gonna get messy.
Stop right there!
It's obvious that this person could operate a computer and help Yelena destroy evidence, but the other person just wouldn't let her get close. The researcher warned Yelena, Valentina's research could very well destroy the whole world, but for Yelena, she was just here to carry out a confidential mission. There was no need to know the specific details at all, but the researcher's resistance was very fierce. Before dying, he even destroyed the unlocking device. Yelena had to blow up the whole floor of the laboratory. Then she left holding the guinea pig from the laboratory. On the other side, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier who had just become a congressman, was preparing to attend the impeachment hearing against Valentina, but Valentina wasn't the least bit flustered. In the face of everyone's impeachment, regarding the claim that OXE Group was involved in illegal human experiments, in an attempt to create superhumans, she insisted that it was made up.
The Avengers are not walking through that door. We have no reliable heroes. That is why the onus is on me, on us, the American government, to shield its citizens. And
Then Valentina dismissed all the impeachment articles, but as soon as the hearing ended, she immediately asked her assistant to get rid of all the unfavorable things, but the assistant said, Yelena, who had just completed a mission in Malaysia, suddenly couldn't be reached. On the other side, Yelena knocked on someone's door. It was her father whom she hadn't seen for a long time, Red Guardian Alexei. He was the fake father of the 2 generations of Black Widows. Back in the day, he took a counterfeit super soldier serum. His combat power surged immediately. He was built into the Soviet version of Captain America, but now he could only stay at home with no proper job. Yelena told him that she planned to resign, but for Alexei, he longed to work for the CIA and contribute to the country, so Alexei really couldn't understand why Yelena wanted to quit her job. Persuaded by Alexei, Yelena temporarily gave up the idea of resigning, but she was indeed tired of her current life, so she called Valentina, wanting her to arrange a clerical job. Valentina agreed readily. She said that as long as Yelena completed the last mission, she would be transferred to a clerical position. Not long after, Yelena appeared outside a confidential fortress. There was a vault in this storage center, containing all the most confidential documents and assets of the OXE Group. There was news that a rogue agent wanted to steal the things. Yelena's mission was to follow the rogue agent in, finding out what the other person wanted to steal from inside, and killing the other person after finding out. But when she arrived at the place, Yelena didn't find the target. Instead, she saw a secret document called Sentry Program on the table. Just as she was putting the document into her pocket, someone launched an attack. This person was none other than U.S. Agent, the second Captain America, John Walker. Yelena, looking confused, quickly said that her target wasn't him. But what Yelena didn't expect was that Walker was coming for her, but the next second, John was kicked flying. The Comer was the mysterious enemy of the first Black Widow, Taskmaster. This guy could quickly imitate all the moves of the enemy, and then make them his own skills. As the second Black Widow, Yelena had a deep connection with Taskmaster. Taskmaster actually started fighting with John, but he was taken down in just a few moves. Then, Ghost emerged again. This person got into a mishap while doing quantum experiments before, and gained the ability to turn invisible. She was the most powerful killer in SHIELD. Strangely enough, Ghost was going to deal with the just-appeared Taskmaster. The relationship between these people was really chaotic. Yelena was even more confused. She had no idea what was going on at all. Then the four of them started a big melee, all fighting their own targets to the death. None of these people realized what they had opened. They were still fighting their own battles there. At this point, Taskmaster knocked Ghost flying with his shield, and then tried to sneak attack John from behind. Taskmaster was so powerful in the comics, it was really funny that he died right at the beginning here. At this point, a fit of coughing broke the silence. When the several people looked up, Yelena took the opportunity to break free from the stalemate. A man crawled out of the activated box, but before he could run out of the room, the gate suddenly dropped, trapping everyone inside. The man had to raise his hands high, and said his name was Bob. On the other side, the Winter Soldier attended the Avengers Memorial Gala. He found Valentina's assistant, Mel. Mel guessed that the Winter Soldier wanted to recruit her, but she said she wouldn't make a decision without absolute safety guarantees, but there was still room for discussion. Mel handed her business card to the Winter Soldier. On the other side, Bob was still defending himself, and Ghost, thinking he had completed his mission, was ready to leave. But at this point, Yelena suddenly figured it out.
It's clear we have all worked for Valentina in some sort of shadow ops capacity. She wants us gone.
But John didn't agree. He thought he was different from the other two. He was the only one here officially recognized. He insisted on taking everyone away. But John couldn't stop Ghost at all. She turned around and tried to leave. But the next second, an invisible sound wave forced her back to her original form. Others were also shaken so much that they covered their ears. Apparently, Yelena's guess was correct. Valentina wanted them all killed. As soon as the sound wave passed, Ghost and John actually rummaged through Taskmaster's body for good stuff. Valentina had already snatched the tablet from Mel and pressed the start button. The equipment in the room was activated instantly. The temperature rose sharply. It wouldn't be long before they were roasted into jerky. Yelena suddenly remembered that as long as the sound wave emitter could be destroyed, Ghost could pass through the gate to open it from the outside. Not long after, she actually found the emitter. John quickly smashed it. Then Ghost successfully passed through the gate. At the moment the gate opened, tongues of fire sprayed out like lava. The explosion knocked Yelena to the ground. In a trance, her thoughts drifted back to the final test in the past. Yelena, to show her loyalty to the organization, tricked her friend into the forest and killed her. It wasn't until she saw Bob appear that she suddenly woke up and found that their hands were touching. Yelena's gaze suddenly became more cautious. Although the few of them survived by luck for the time being, the danger wasn't over yet. They needed to find a way to leave the bunker. At the same time, Valentina soon found out that the few hadn't died. Mel analyzed that they should have known the truth. They were joining forces to deal with her, but Valentina didn't take it seriously at all. But when she saw a completely unfamiliar person appear in her fortress, she was much angrier than seeing these heroes escape her scheme. Valentina told Mel to quickly find out the man's background, and by the way, send armed forces to the target location to end the incident. Coincidentally, the luxury car driver was Yelena's father, Red Guardian Alexei. On the other side, Yelena and the others were discussing how to escape from the fortress. John asked Bob how he got in, but Bob had no memory of this at all. He only remembered going to participate in medical research and having his blood drawn. When he woke up again, he was in the bunker. Bob felt he was a burden and didn't want to follow them anymore. He planned to let fate take its course, but Yelena didn't want him to give up on survival. She was too familiar with this kind of self-abandoning thought. Yelena looked at Bob as if she saw her past self. At this point, John smashed open the ventilation shaft with his shield. The few planned to leave from here, but the problem was that the four of them had no climbing tools. John tried to jump but couldn't reach the top at all. Ghost didn't dare to go through walls casually. If she accidentally went into a concrete wall and regained her physical form, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bob came up with the most cliched method, so an awkward scene followed. Several agents with unique skills were just like an ordinary person, climbing bit by bit towards the top of the building, back to back with the stupidest method. At this time, Valentina received new information. Bob was actually the only surviving victim of the Sentry program. If he really survived all the experiments, that meant he was the target Valentina was looking for. On the other side, they didn't know how long they had been climbing before finally reached the top of the ventilation opening. But when John pulled Bob up, as their hands touched, John was suddenly dragged into dark memories. He saw the scene he least wanted to face. At that time, John killed an innocent enemy with the former Captain America's shield. The media reported his scandal, The reputation of the second Captain America was completely ruined. The next second, Yelena woke John up. John looked at Bob suspiciously. Bob had an innocent look on his face. Then the few came out of the ventilation opening and walked to the gate. At this time, the outside was already surrounded by soldiers. They had to retreat into the fortress to find a way. Yelena came up with an idea. Let Bob set off an explosion on the scene. The assault team would definitely rush in. With night vision goggles, Ghost would take advantage of the chaos to grab a car. When the time came, she would turn on all the lights to blind the soldiers. At this time, John could block the first wave of attack. The few would then take the opportunity to escape. But who would have thought something went wrong at the first step? After the explosion, the team really rushed into the castle. But when Yelena went to turn on the power switch, she found the wires had long been damaged by the explosion. John waited for a long time without seeing the lights on, so he had to act first. And when Yelena arrived, John had already knocked down all the soldiers, but he was nowhere to be found. Then the second batch of soldiers rushed in again. Yelena had to take Bob and continue fighting.
Stop! Please, John, stop!
Luckily, John didn't abandon them. In the end, the three of them put on soldiers' uniforms. They walked out pretending to be enemy soldiers, and Ghost was already waiting for them in an armed vehicle. The two got Bob into the car. They just started driving to leave, but were stopped by the guards. After arguing for a long time, John kept refusing to take off his helmet. This attracted the guards' attention. At this point, suddenly, gunshots rang out from behind the car, luring all the guards over. Ghost quickly ran to the back of the car to check. It turned out that Bob had returned to the fortress entrance by himself to let them escape safely. He was also holding a machine gun and spraying fire to attract attention. The armed forces fired wildly at him. Valentina screamed like crazy for a ceasefire. In the current situation, the three had no choice but to drive away first. Unexpectedly, the next second, Bob actually stood up with no injuries at all. The soldiers present in Valentina were all stunned. What's even more amazing was, he actually left the ground, flew up against the hail of bullets, and kept soaring into the sky. It's just that Bob couldn't control his abilities properly. For the time being, he soon fell down. Not only did he make a big hole in the fortress, the shockwave also destroyed the whole base. The three's military vehicle was also knocked flying. After Yelena narrowly escaped death, she took out the information found in the fortress. She thought Bob was the sentry mentioned in the information. John obviously knew something too. He said that the news of OXE Group, using humans for experiments, had long been spread. It was said that all those who took part in the experiments were dead. Now the government was preparing to investigate. Valentina closed the bunker and sent him to clean up the mess. Obviously, there was a dirty secret inside. Early the next morning, only a few hours had passed since the explosion. 7 media outlets had already reported on the incident, linking it to OXE Group. Many congressmen who supported Valentina also sent messages to question her, but Valentina didn't take it seriously at all. The most important thing now was to find and kill Yelena and the other two as soon as possible, then restart the Avengers mansion that had just been bought in New York. Valentina told Mel, remember to call her. When Bob was sent to Avengers Mansion, on the other side, the three-person team was still escaping on foot. Suddenly, an engine sound was heard. It was actually the Red Guardian who came. As soon as he saw Yelena, he shouted for his daughter not to go into that fortress, because Valentina wanted to burn her to death. It's just that the notification was a bit late. After picking up the 3, the Red Guardian told Yelena what had happened. Originally, he wanted to use his connections to take on a few big clients to expand his network. Unexpectedly, he learned such a big secret, so he rushed over immediately. But the 3 who knew the truth had no plan. At this point, they knew Valentina was ruthless, so they all wanted to run far away and hide, not planning to resist at all. But in the Red Guardian's eyes, these guys who always denied themselves were actually real warriors. Since Valentina wanted to go against them, they should stand up and fight. At this point, the pursuit convoy had caught up. The Red Guardian stepped on the gas pedal to the floor, but still couldn't get rid of the pursuers. John had to hold up his shield to block the bullets. The Red Guardian lit a bottle of vodka and threw it at the car behind, but the flame was quickly blown out by the wind. Ghost was ready to go out and take a risk, but was immediately shaken by a sound wave and couldn't stand. Yelena risked sticking her head out and fired a shot. The car behind exploded directly. Then the second military vehicle was also blown up by a shell. It turned out that Bucky the Winter Soldier had come to the rescue. He rode a motorcycle and used a grenade launcher to take out the last military vehicle. Everyone was cheering, thinking it was all over, but Bucky fired a shell at the rear of the car. The car was blown over. At the same time, congressmen couldn't wait to hold an impeachment meeting. They just wanted to send Valentina to prison, and Valentina arrived at Avengers Mansion by helicopter. She only cared about Bob for the time being, and successfully turned him against them, with a set of brainwashing words. As the supervisor of the Sentry experiment, she knew Bob's background like the back of her hand. It was very easy to win him over for her own use, but at the moment she touched Bob, she was also dragged into the darkest memories. It was obvious that Bob had the ability to make anyone expose their dark side. Valentina, shocked by the memories, looked at Bob. Clearly, she had other ideas in mind. Then she asked Mel to hold a press conference to show the experimental results to everyone, but Mel was worried that things would get out of control. The serum given to someone like Captain America could make him a hero, but who knew what kind of monster would be created by injecting it into such an unstable person? But Valentina didn't care at all. The most important thing now was to keep power and status. On the other side, the Winter Soldier had tied up all four of them. In his opinion, these people were key evidence for impeaching Valentina. The few quickly explained the truth of the matter. Valentina had already created superhumans. The government was about to face a major change, but the Winter Soldier didn't believe it at all. Luckily, at this time, Mel called to tell the Winter Soldier that the Sentry program really existed, and the first superhuman had been successfully created, but the test subject was very dangerous, like a bomb that could explode at any time. They needed to find a way to stop Valentina before the media reported it. Having confirmed that what the four said was the truth, Bucky untied the ropes and asked everyone to go together to solve the current crisis. Not long after, the team members drove into the building and fought with the soldiers inside. The few showed their respective skills. The soldiers were no match for them at all, but Valentina was very angry. She clearly told her men to let them in, yet they still destroyed the newly decorated hall. Valentina was so confident, obviously because the secret weapon was already prepared. Then, the team members took the elevator upstairs to arrest the Countess. Valentina admitted that she had sent the few to the secret room to make them kill each other. Bucky didn't want to listen to nonsense, and reached out to grab her, but he was immediately frozen by an invisible force. Then Bob in armor made his official appearance.
All-powerful, invincible, stronger than all of the Avengers rolled into one, and soon to be known as Earth's mightiest hero.
In Valentina's plan, when the media arrives, they will film the scene of superheroes taking down rebellious agents. By then, a new era will come. It will be an era belonging to her, Valentina. No one will dare to remove her from office anymore. Then Valentina gave an order to Bob, telling him to capture these rebellious elements in front of him. Yelena still wanted to mediate, but her father rushed forward directly, and was punched flying by the Sentry. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, several people rushed forward together. Alexei pulled out a dagger and stabbed the Sentry repeatedly, but he couldn't even break through the defense. Instead, he was toyed with by Bob in the palm of his hand. Ghost's most proud invisibility ability was completely useless in front of the Sentry. Even John's shield was bent by hand. The team members joined forces and fought with all their strength, but were totally defeated. Seeing that defeat was inevitable, the group had to escape by elevator, but Valentina had no intention of letting them go. She ordered the Sentry to kill all the team members. The Sentry felt puzzled. The team members were so weak that there was no need to kill them. At this point, Valentina still hadn't faced reality. She demanded that the Sentry must obey her. This made the Sentry very confused. On the other side, the Thunderbolts were originally a temporary team. After the disastrous defeat, they became even more scattered. After a quarrel, the group disbanded on the spot, and the failure crushed Yelena once again. She cried to her father about her misfortunes. She could never get over her sister's death. The Red Guardian could only comfort her, trying to calm her down. At this point, the Sentry was still justifying his rights, but on second thought, he possessed the power to destroy the world. There was no need to listen to Valentina at all. She didn't understand or respect him. She only saw him as a war machine. Valentina felt that something was seriously wrong. She tried to take out the trump card to deal with the Sentry. Unexpectedly, the Sentry acted first and pinned her against the wall. In the nick of time, Mel picked up the secret weapon and shot at the Sentry. This kind of weapon was specifically designed to counter him. The Sentry fell to the ground immediately, breathless. After that, Valentina and Mel left by elevator. As for the Sentry's body, Valentina said someone would take care of it, but before that, they still had to wipe out all the team members. But as soon as Valentina left, the Sentry's body was shrouded in a shadow. He suddenly opened his eyes. Soon, Mel told Valentina that the cleanup crew hadn't seen the body. The two looked up. a dark figure suddenly appeared in the sky. With a casual wave of his hand, he turned the soldiers who came to handle the body into shadows. Then the building was torn open by a falling tower. Countless debris and concrete blocks fell to the ground. Members of the Thunderbolts quickly rushed to help the civilians. This group of anti-heroes, with no faith and no sense of honor, unexpectedly, all stood up at the same time, choosing to save those innocent people. The team that had long since disbanded regrouped at this point. Their actions were also recognized by the surrounding people. Even Valentina found this scene incredible, but an accident suddenly happened the next second. After the Red Guardian saved a little girl, he was turned into a dark shadow. Then more and more people were turned into dark shadows. Everyone was scared and fled in all directions. John finally realized Bob actually had a superpowered dark side. Watching as the shadows and darkness continued to expand, everyone could only run for their lives. After the team members hid in the building, they realized Yelena was missing. It turned out that Yelena didn't believe that the kind Bob would turn into the terrifying Void, so she resolutely stood in front of Bob. In fact, the darkness in Yelena's heart was almost the same as Bob's. That kind of pain that no one could understand, and was engraved in the bones, made them feel the same way about the Void. So Yelena walked directly into that darkness. Not long after, Yelena woke up in the Void's consciousness. She started looking for Bob's figure, and even tried to interfere with the space, but obviously, she couldn't change the past, so she tried her best to break free, and came to the second layer of space. There was still no sign of Bob here, but she felt more and more deeply about Bob's painful experiences. At this point, she seemed to catch a glimpse of Bob's shadow, so she picked up a pistol and broke the mirror. On the other side, it was still herself, looking at herself, drowning her sorrows in alcohol. Because of losing her sister, she had no strength to resist. At this time, Bob appeared in front of Yelena. He clearly told Yelena that everything the Black Void outside did had nothing to do with him. He had no courage or ability to resist. Bob just wanted to hide here to avoid all troubles. The violence he suffered in childhood made him learn to accept everything passively, but even if he chose to be swallowed by the Void, those tragic experiences would still seep in through the cracks. Yelena understood this pain too well, knowing that if you can't overcome the pain, it will only get worse and worse. So Yelena walked to Bob's side, sat down, took his hand, and said, "No one can bear so much pain alone. To defeat the Void, you must bravely step out, face the deepest pain in your heart directly. Otherwise, once you are completely swallowed by the Void, you will never come back." As Bob's heart began to waver, the consciousness space also began to fluctuate. The surrounding objects attacked Yelena and Bob one by one. These things wanted to strangle the two. Just when they were about to collapse, a sharp sword cut off the restraints. It turned out that the team members also came to the consciousness space. The several people had a clear division of labor, and destroyed the flying objects. The consciousness space finally calmed down. The most important thing now was how to go back to reality. It was just that Bob also had no way to do this. The only thing that could be sure was that the room he was in was the quietest and most stable. Other rooms were worse than here. Yelena reasoned backwards from this. The quietest room was hidden in the deepest part. Then the outermost room must be the worst. Finding that room might allow them to go back to reality. After that, several people shuttled between various rooms. Numerous scenes and characters kept popping up. They passed through the basement and came to a laboratory. It was exactly the one that Yelena destroyed at the beginning. Obviously, Bob's nightmare started here. It turned out that Bob had accidentally gotten involved with drugs before, when he was deeply stuck in the quagmire. People from the laboratory found Bob and tricked him into joining the Sentry program as an experimental subject. He wanted to prove himself, so he readily agreed, but the experiment created another terrifying personality. While infinitely amplifying his abilities, the emptiness in his heart was also infinitely expanding. The next second, the Void walked over and easily took down everyone. Bob hurriedly begged the Void to let everyone go, but the Void had no intention of stopping. Bob rushed up and wrestled with the Void. He didn't seem to be a match for the Void, but after being constantly provoked, he suddenly went berserk, and knocked the Void to the ground, clenched his fists and attacked crazily. Watching Bob gradually being swallowed by anger, Bucky suddenly felt that something was wrong. Yelena hurriedly told Bob to stop, because this was exactly what the Void wanted, but Bob was already blinded by anger, and couldn't listen at all. If the kind personality couldn't be preserved, the darkness wound definitely completely swallow everything. The Red Guardian hurriedly released his daughter. Yelena dodged the obstacles, hugged Bob, and said that even if no one in the world cared about him, she would be the exception. With Yelena's obstruction, the others also broke free from the restraints one by one, all rushed over to hug Bob. At this point, Bob was no longer alone. He finally rushed out of the haze. Soon the darkness receded little by little. The city was dyed with colors. Again, the sun shone on the ground. Those who were swallowed by the void also went back to reality, but Bob couldn't remember anything. At this time, Valentina was shouting for help. The team members didn't think much, and rushed over to arrest her, only to be tricked by her again. It turned out that this place was already surrounded by the media. Obviously, Valentina had long been prepared. She brazenly announced that through her efforts, a new Avengers alliance was born. Everyone finally realized that they were fighting hard on the front line to clean up Valentina's mess, but she was playing tricks and schemes behind their backs.
We own you now.
The movie ends here. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has developed so far, with a large number of works, each with distinct styles. In the past, Marvel movies mostly focused on superheroes saving the world, but the protagonists here are exploited and marginalized characters. Their starting point isn't to protect the world from the very beginning. Instead, it's to save themselves and resist the manipulated fate. This film also explores the dark side and redemption of superheroes. These leading characters all have an ignoble past. They are moving forward on the road of finding self-worth and redemption. But the film also has shortcomings in the presentation of its themes. It wants to express a lot of content. As a result, each theme isn't explored deeply enough. Take the theme of redemption, for example. The transformation and redemption process of the characters is somewhat hasty. It lacks deeper portrayal of inner thoughts and plot foreshadowing, making the communication of the theme less powerful. It's difficult to arouse strong resonance among the audience. Overall, Thunderbolts is a meaningful attempt by Marvel. It adds new stories and characters to the Marvel universe. But the overall quality of the film is still somewhat imperfect. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.